Bat and the Waiting Game. Chapter 17. Party Games. Hey, do you want to play a game with us? Janie had opened up the door without knocking, which she knew wasn't allowed. You forgot to knock, Bat said. Janie rolled her eyes. Okay then, I guess you don't want to play with us, she said and began to close the door. Wait, Israel said, jumping on his feet. I want to play. He followed Janie into the hallway, turning to say, Come on, Bat. Bat checked on Thor before he followed. Inside the playpen, inside the kitty carrier, the tip of the skunk's tail poked out from the flannel blanket that Thor liked to sleep inside. Bat closed the bedroom door behind him and followed Israel and Janie down the hall. The living room was a mess. Janie's three friends sat on a nest they'd made of all couch cushions. The coffee table was shoved to one side. Paper plates of half-eaten pizza and paper cups full of juice littered all over. So this is my brother Bat and his friend Israel, Janie said. And these are my friends, Karina, Maggie, and Frida. She pointed at each one of the three girls as she said their names. Hi, Israel said with a little wave. Then he elbowed Bat. Ouch, Bat said. Say hello, whispered Israel loudly. Hello, Bat said. Oh, your brother is adorable, Janie. One of the girls, Maggie, from the pillow pile. Bat's face felt hot and prickly, and he shifted his weight from foot to foot. Are you guys going to play with us? Said Frida. What's the game? Said Israel. His voice sounded unusually squeaky to Bat. It's called Two Truths and a Lie. Have you ever played? Janie asked. Bat shook his head no. So did Israel. It's fun, said Frida. You just think of two things that are true about you and one lie. Then you say all three of them and try and hide which one is a lie. Then everyone guesses which one is a lie, and if you fool everyone, you get a prize. What's the prize? Asked Bat. A bag of gummies, Janie said, holding up a clear plastic bag full of gummies. Okay, Israel said, we'll play. He flopped down on one of the cushions. Bat sat next to him. I'll go first, said Maggie. Like the other girls, she was dressed in pajamas. Maggie's were the kind with built-in feet and a hood, and she wore the hood up on her head. They were tiger-striped, and the hood had tiger ears sewn into it. Let's see, said Maggie. I don't know how to ride a bicycle. I am allergic to shellfish, and I have 13 pets. You have 13 pets? Bat said excitedly. What kind of pets? Bat, said Janie, you can't ask questions. That's not how the game works. We have to guess which of the three things is a lie. I hope it's true that you have 13 pets, Bat said to Maggie. She smiled. Okay, Frida said. I think it's true that she's allergic to shellfish, because that's a weird thing to make up. Janie nodded, but Israel said, I think she's lying about not knowing how to ride a bike. Who doesn't know how to ride a bike? Then Corina said, well, actually, my mom never learned to ride a bike until she was a grown-up. She just never wanted to when she was a kid. That's crazy, Israel said. I love riding my bike. It's the best. Especially down hills, up hills, not so much. Then he and Frida started talking about the really big hill over by the high school and how hard it was to ride up and how much fun it was to ride down, until Bat interrupted. I think the shellfish thing is a lie, he said, mostly because he really wanted the 13 animal thing to be true. Okay, who votes shellfish? Janie asked. And Bat, Israel, Janie, and Corina, and Frida all raised their hands. Well, we think the lie is about being allergic to shellfish, Janie said to Maggie. She shook her head and grinned. Nope. She said, I really am allergic to shellfish. They make the inside of my mouth feel all itchy, and I break into hives. Janie tossed a bag of gummies to Maggie, who caught it. So what's the lie? Israel asked. It's the animal thing, Maggie admitted. I don't have 13 pets. I have 14. You have 14 pets? Bat said. What kind? We have 5 chickens, Maggie began, 2 dogs, and 7 fish. My brother Jasper has a saltwater tank. I want to go next, Bat said. Okay, said Janie. Bat thought for a minute. He didn't like to lie. He really didn't. It made him feel uncomfortable and sort of itchy. But since this was for a game, he wanted to make it a really good lie. When he was ready, he said, "My favorite fruit is grapes, the green ones. When I grow up, I'm going to be a firefighter, and I have a baby skunk in my room." Then he pointed at Janie and Israel and said, "You guys can't play because you know the truth already." "Okay, Bat," said Janie, rolling her eyes again. "It's the skunk one, Maggie. He just said that because of my pet lie. No one has a skunk for a pet." Bat tried really hard not to smile. Karina said, "Lots of kids want to be a firefighter, and everyone likes grapes. So I think the skunk thing is a lie, too. Skunks are gross." They all voted that the lie was about having a baby skunk in his room. And Bat, practically bursting with excitement, said, "No, that's true. I really do have a baby skunk in my room. His name is Thor." Then no one cared about which thing was a lie. Being a firefighter, of course, because Bat was definitely going to be a veterinarian like his mom when he grew up. Janie's friends begged him to show him the skunk, even Frida, who had just said that she thought skunks were gross. "Okay," Bat said, "I'll go get him." So he went back to his room, scooped up the sleeping kit, blanket and all, and went back into the living room. "You have to be quiet and slow with him," Bat said sternly, "or else he'll be scared. I'll hold him, and you can pet his head." And then he walked around the circle of kids, showing Thor to each of them. Thor widened his mouth in an adorable yawn, and Janie's friend said, "Ooh, ah," as Bat and told Bat how cute Thor was. Even Janie took a turn petting Thor's head, and then, because it was what a good friend would do, Bat let Israel carry Thor back to his enclosure. Chapter 18, Best Friends. After Bat put Thor away, Janie got all bossy and told the boys that she and her friends were going to watch a movie that the boys definitely wouldn't like. But when Bat asked what movie, she wouldn't even say. "How can you know that we won't like it if you won't even let us watch?" Bat said. "What about the time I said I didn't like pigs in a blanket before I even tried it, and you made me have a bite of yours, and it turned out I really liked it? Do you remember that time?" "I remember, Bat," Janie said, her mouth in a flat line. "But this is different." "You boys can watch a movie in my room if you want," Mom offered. Her bedroom was the only one in the house with a TV in it. Bat wanted to stay in the living room and ask Maggie more about her pets. What kind of dogs did she have? How did her brother make sure that the salt water in the fish tank had just the right amount of salt? Did his fish ever try to eat each other? Bat had heard that sometimes fish tank fish ate each other. "Come on, Bat," Israel said. "Let's hang out in your room." Bat followed reluctantly. When they got back to Bat's room, Israel said, "I think your sister was ready to have her friends back to herself." "What?" Bat said. "But she invited us out there to play games with them." "That's because you need more people to have fun, for a game to be fun," Israel said. "She doesn't need us to make watching a movie more fun." Bat thought about that. "Then why didn't she just tell us she was done with us?" Israel laughed. "Because that's rude," he said. "Watch." And then he pretended to be Janie. He put his hands on his hips the way Janie sometimes did and rolled his eyes, like Janie did, and said, "Bat, I am sick of you and your friend. We don't need you anymore now that the game is over. So please go away." Then he dropped his arms and grinned. He said, "See? Rude." "That's terrible. That's a terrible Janie impression," Bat said. Israel hadn't changed his voice at all, and Janie always said "Bat" in a long, drawn-out way when she was annoyed with him, which was often. Bat looked at Israel. He liked the way Israel's hair was sort of fluffy, and sort of curly, and sort of long, but not all the way fluffy or curly or long. He liked how Israel wore his shirts, loose and never tucked in. He liked how Israel almost always kept his voice low and gentle. There was a lot to like about Israel. "You're my best friend," Bat said. Israel grinned. "Really?" he said. "I didn't think you liked me that much." "Why would you think that?" Bat asked, bewildered. "Well," Israel said, "when you're at my house, you seem more interested in my dad's truck, or my mom's art studio than you are in playing with me. It was true that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when Bat went over to Israel's house after school, he used the chance to ask Israel's parents the questions he had. Like, how did a pottery wheel work? Answer: the centrifugal force caused by the spinning of the wheel made the clay move outward from the center. And what was the heaviest thing Tom ever had towed with his big black truck? Answer: a broken down RV that belonged to one of Tom's friends. But those questions didn't mean that Bat didn't think Israel was his best friend. You have interesting parents, Bat said. Thanks, I guess, Israel said. You're interesting too, Bat said. Even if you're not a professional potter, and even though you don't own a big black truck. This made Israel laugh. Thanks, Bat, Israel said. I think you're interesting too. Even if you didn't have a skunk kit, I'd like you anyway. Really? Bat said. He felt kind of shy and happy at the same time. Really, Israel answered. Bat smiled. Then he said, speaking of Thor, do you want to see if we can teach him some tricks? Yes, said Israel. Yes, I do.